Okay. Now, obviously, the media controls people's minds massively.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Newtown.
Now, I'm not saying all of these are Manchurian candidates. I'm saying that some of them might be, and I'm going to explain why. The first one, Michael Ryan, this was in 1987, and there's a young lad who lived with his mothers in his mid-late 20s. One day, he had licensed weapons, as most of these people do, and he had semi-automatic weapons. He woke up one day, and he just went round his street, killing people at random. And he killed several people. These were all in his own street. And his mother came in, and she tried to stop him, and he just shot his own mother. Now, I've got quotations from a documentary where there was a woman and her mother were in a car, and they drove towards him while he was on this killing spree. And this woman said, I don't think that anyone believed it was Michael Ryan, because a lot of the people injured came from South View, and they were his neighbours. So they couldn't understand that it was him. They couldn't believe it was him. And this is what she said. They pulled him in a car next to him, and he actually fired at them. They're very lucky to be alive through the windscreen or through the car. I think one of them was injured, but they sped off. And she said, because she looked at him right in the eye, this is what she said. He just looked really like, don't know what the word is, brain dead. That's a bit of an exaggeration, just really not quite there. And many of the other witnesses referred to the blank expression on his face. And he later barricaded himself in a college, and they were trying to talk him out, and he was expressing concern over his mother. So it was as if he had been programmed, it had worn off. Now, you might say, well, what would be the motive for hypnotizing Ryan to kill all these people? It's straightforward. They made illegal all semi-automatic weapons in the UK after that happened. And they wouldn't have been able to do that if they hadn't had that.
Now, the trouble with these incidents is that you never really know what happens.
To you, this continues to be a very complex investigation, and there's a lot of contradictory information out there, but there is some new information this morning from a couple of federal officials and state officials. They say now that there were actually 4 handguns recovered inside the school, not just 2, as we were initially told. 4 handguns, and apparently only handguns, that were taken into the school. We knew that Adam Lanza, the man said to be the gunman here, also had a assault-style, AR-15 style rifle that he had taken to the school that was in the car he drove there, his mother's car. But we've been told by several officials that he left that in the car.
What I'm trying to make is we don't really know what happened, and the news reports are inconsistent. For example, the Associated Press reports that the medical examiner, Dr. Wayne Carver, said all the victims at the Connecticut elementary school shooting were killed up close by multiple rifle shots. And yet, all the reports are that the accused is found dead in the schoolroom with 2 handguns. So how did he kill the kids with rifle shots with handguns?
Well, listen to it. Okay. Come to the microphone, so we'll listen. Okay.
Enough.
Yeah, that's gangster stuff.
Enough.
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 617 New York School. Caller
is indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building. The Sandy Hook School, the front glass has been broken out of the school. They're unsure why. All units responding to Sandy Hook School at this time. The shooting appears to have stopped. It is silent at this time. The school is in lockdown. I have reports that the teacher saw two shadows running past the building, past the gym, which would be rear base. Near shooting. Yeah, we got them. They're coming at me down Cross Point. Come up the driveway on the left side. That's 6. This is it. You're requested to stage Methodist Church, St. Hook Center. I will need 2 ambulances at this time.
Sorry, ambulance, having stage.
754 to the garage.
On units, last known gunshots were in the front of the building.
I got a party on the seat. I got them thrown out.
For that unit, be aware that we could have a second unit. 25 Any description?
Even with the inconsistencies of reports, at the end of the day, there are 20 kids who are dead right now.
Yeah, but we don't
plus
know
others,
anything
and
about
there's
it.
guns involved. We can't necessarily say it's because the media is writing, is sending out the wrong information. At the end of the day, we're talking about guns, and we're talking about people being killed. So where do we draw the line? Who has the power to draw that line?
Well, I'm absolutely certain that today the United States Army killed at least 20 kids in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, wherever they are. And we don't hear anything about it. It's only if our own kids get killed, then all of a sudden we get upset. The news is agenda-driven. The news is agenda-driven. And as I've already told you, you cannot have a police state and an armed population. And therefore, they're going to take the guns away. That's absolutely certain. And these events, whether real or not real, are simply helpful in taking the guns away. So the Americans are going to be disarmed. You can't have a police state and an armed population.
But I'm going to talk about, in particular, Manchurian candidates. This is where people are hypnotized by some shady group to then go and murder someone so that they can escape the blame for that murder. And I think this is probably more prevalent than you might think. Okay, the next one, 1996, Thomas Hamilton. This is the Dunblane massacre, and I think most of the people here will probably know that this guy killed 16 children and a school teacher in a school, and then he killed himself. As often Manchurian candidates do, they're programmed to kill themselves because that means they can't then be unraveled, that it can't be found out that they've been programmed. But Thomas Hamilton was under investigation for being a paedophile. He had connections with some very, very high-ranking politicians. He was a Freemason. He ran a boys' club, and it's rumoured that he would recruit young boys for paedophiles. That's a rumour about him. Now, there was an inquiry into this because obviously the locals, people who lost their children, wanted to know what happened. So there was a government inquiry called the Cullen Inquiry. And certain findings in that inquiry, there was a secrecy notice put on it for 100 years. Now, that's unprecedented. You have a 30-year secrecy, 80, or 70, 80, and 100. 100 is the maximum. So no one who was involved will be here when the truth is known about Dunblane. Now, they only put 100-year secrecy on something usually if it's a matter of national security. So you can possibly assume from that the high-ranking politicians that he knew had something to do with it, or were possibly being, you go on the internet, you'll find out about it. But yes, I think it's highly likely that Thomas Hamilton was a programmed killer. The next one I'll come back to, and the next one I'll come back to. Ralmo I'll do last. Now, Anders Breivik, 2011, he killed 77 people. This was in Norway, and there were several people who said they'd witnessed a second shooter. Because quite often with these cases, what we find that the person who's been programmed, there's someone else working in conjunction with them who's possibly an operative of some kind, making sure, maybe steering them, maybe firing a few bullets themselves. And this is the case in various American Manchurian candidate incidents at various colleges that have happened.
For the children of Sandy Hook.